She glared at the man, gripped your wrist. His dark, instant eyes, sharp jawline, and leather-clad figure gave away his authority. He did not need to introduce himself. You knew exactly who he was. Let me go, you demanded, your voice defiant. Jungkook titled his head, a smirk playing on his lip. You have got guts talking to me like that, he said, his voice deep, almost teasing. I don't care who you are, I don't own you anything. You snapped, pulling your hand away. Instead of reacting angrily, Jungkook raised on eyebrow, intrigued by your fiery attitude. Interesting, he murmured, stepping closer. But do you know who I am? You did not flinch. I don't care. Before you knew what you were doing, your hand flew up and landed across his cheek with a loud slap. The entire club seemed to go silent, and you held your breath, waiting for his reaction. For a moment, there was shock in his eyes. Then, slowly, a smile crept onto his lips. You have made things interesting now, he said, his tone chilling. I will be seeing you again. With that cryptic statement, he let you go, and you quickly left, your heart pounding in your chest. You tried to forget about the encounter, but Jungkook was not the type of man to be ignored. Everywhere you went, you could feel his presence. His man would appear near your workplace, watching you from a distance. Packages would arrive at your apartment, luxuries gift with no notes, but you knew they were from him. One evening after a long day, there was a knock on your door. You opened it, and there he was, Jungkook, leaning against the doorframe, his hands casually in his pockets. Surprised to see me, he asked, flashing that infuriating smirk. What do you want, Jungkook? You demanded, crossing your arms in frustration. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his eyes scanning your small apartment. I have been thinking about you, he said casually, as if that was the most normal thing in the world. You need to stop this, you said firmly, trying to keep your voice steady. I am not interested in your games. Jungkook stepped closer, his gaze looking onto yours. This is not a game, he said softly, but there was something intense in his voice. You have been on my mind since that night. You are different. You are not afraid of me, and that makes me curious. You swallowed hard, trying to ignore the way your heart was racing. I won't be another one of your conquests. You want. His expression softened just a little. You are not just anyone to me, he admitted, his voice low. You challenge me. I have never met anyone like you. Day turns into weeks, and despite your best efforts to push him away, Jungkook's residence grew. He was not violent or forceful like you had expected. Instead, he shows up, made small talk, and kept a watchful eye over you. Slowly, you began to see another side of him, a side that was surprisingly gentle, even caring despite his dangerous reputation. One evening, after a particularly long day, you found yourself sitting on the rooftop of your building, enjoying the quiet. Jungkook, as usual, found you. Can't seem to escape me. Can you? It is sitting down next to you. You are relentless, you signed, but there was no bite in your words this time. In fact, you were starting to find his company oddly comforting. Jago glanced at you, his usual smile replaced by a more serious expression. I never let go of what I want, he said softly, and I want you. You met his gaze, feeling the weight of his words. Why me? You could have anyone. He leaned back, looking up at the sky. That's just it. I don't want just anyone. You are different. You don't see me as the mafia boss. You just see me as me. You hesitated, but his volubility caught you off guard. You are not what I accepted either, Jungkook. A smile tugged at his lips. Is that a good thing? I don't know yet. You admitted. As the days passed, you found yourself growing closer to Jungkook. His obsession was not the dark, dangerous thing you had feared. It was something more tender, almost protective. He never pushed you, never forced you into anything. Instead, he waited, showing you little piece of himself that no one else got to see. One night, after a quiet dinner together, you finally let your walls down. I have been feeling this, you confessed, looking down at your hands. Fighting the way I feel about you, Jungkook, watching you carefully, and now you took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. Now I think I am done fighting. His eyes softened, and for the first time you saw a genius smile on his face. He reached for your hand, pulling you close. I won't let anything happen to you, he whispered, his lips brushing against your forehead. Not ever. Months later, the transformation in Jungkook was evident. He was still the ruthless mafia boss to the world, but with you he was different. He was patient, gentle, and most of all, in love. His obsession has turned into a deep, undeniable affection, and you had fallen for him in return. One evening, as the two of you sat on the same rooftop where your relationship had started, Jungkook pulled you into his arms. You know, he began, his voice soft. I never imagined I could feel this way about anyone. You smiled, resting your head against his chest. Neither did I. He tightened your chin up, his dark eyes filled with warmth. You changed me, he whispered, brushing his lips against yours. And I will spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me. As the stars twinkled overhead, you kissed him, feeling the weight of his promise in every tender touch. The man who had once terrified you had become the person you trusted most. And in that moment, you know that you had found love in the most expected place with the ruthless mafia boss, who had become obsessed with you only to find himself falling harder than he ever thought possible. The end. तो गाइस कैसा लगा आपको ये वाला एफएफ मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन में ज़रूर बताइएगा और अगर आप चाहते हो कि मैं आपकी पसंद के एफएफ लिखूं तो प्लीज़ मुझे ज़रूर बताया करें क्योंकि मुझे रिक्वेस्टेड एफएफ लिखना बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है